And hello, and welcome back to another edition of Easy Peasy Books Podcast. And today I have a lovely friend who is on the show today. I'm so excited to finally have him on. I worked with him before on a podcast, but this is the first time he's been on my show as an author. So before we get stuck in, Felipe, can you please introduce yourself and let people know who you are and what you do? And then we will get stuck into your author's journey.
Sure. Thank you, Jillian. It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me on the show again. I always love watching your show, and I love being on it even more. But I'm Felipe Cofiño. I've been an HR executive for 3 decades, and that's been my passion, is about workplace wellness, creating workplace culture, recruitment, and just creating a good workplace experience for employees.
I love
I'm
that.
also a career coach, founder of Cofiño Consulting, where I offer services on the side. And obviously, I'm a LinkedIn enthusiast and most recently a LinkedIn top voice. But the most recent accomplishment was one that I dreamt about 20 years ago and finally came to fruition, which doesn't really go with all the other things I just mentioned, which is I published a book, but not just any book, a children's book called Miranda and Max, which is a little love story to my daughter.
Oh, that's like you touched my heart with that one. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I love this because, we always assume that we're going to write a book that's aligned with what our profession is,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm an author, so I wrote about becoming an author, different things like that. So, or our expertise and leveraging that. And you've written a children's book. Now this is not your first, rodeo. You've done some collaborative books where you've been part of anthologies. And so, you've kind of, you've dabbled in the book world by being part of other book projects, but this is your first solo project. So I want to focus on this one today. And I think that, what kind of strikes me is that here you are, a LinkedIn top voice. So, congratulations on that. You have well over, I think, 35,000 followers and counting. So you have built a huge platform on LinkedIn. You're very, very well known. And yet here you are with a children's book. And yet you promoted your children's book on LinkedIn, which was like ding, 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 ding. That says something about LinkedIn because it's not always B2B. It is sometimes B2C. And we have to remember everybody on LinkedIn, knows somebody or might be somebody who's a parent and has kids. So you have a huge audience there, potential audience as well. So let's first of all, let's talk about your journey to writing this solo book. So what inspired you? Where did this book even come from?
Well, you mentioned briefly the 2 other books I co-authored. Those were books. One was about LinkedIn, and one was about my family. Which, for someone who did not think of himself as an author, my publisher was like, trying to get me part of this collaboration. And when she said, "Write about LinkedIn, something you're passionate about," I'm like, "Okay, I can write a chapter." And when I wrote a chapter about my family, those 2 things opened up my eyes to, well, maybe I could write that children's book that I thought about 20 years ago. And because I always had the story in my head, so I put it down on paper, and then I was like, well, the whole graphics, the illustrations, I like to draw. All my life I've been a closet sketcher. I have like multiple, like 10 sketchbooks full of drawings, but I haven't been good at drawing people. It's been landscapes and animals mostly. So I drew some landscapes of different animals that I have in my backyard. And then I finally said, maybe I can use AI to help me cartoonize the things I can't draw, like my daughter, and draw my dog the way he looked. I could draw a great dog, but it might not look just like my dog. And so I used AI to cartoonize him. And then I said, okay, take my sketchings and make them a similar cartoon as to the ones you made of my daughter and the dog. And there I was like, okay, this is cool. I can do this now, and it won't take me 3 years of sketching and perfecting every single page and every single movement. And so I allowed AI to help me with that. So I still feel like there's a part of me in there. I didn't do all the illustration, and I won't say I ever did, but it just got me excited and allowed me to do it. And now I'm already working on the second book.
Yay! Yay! That's great. Congratulations. And I love that you're harnessing AI to assist you. It's like it's having like a real virtual assistant, so to speak, because authors tap on AI all the time to help them organize their thoughts, maybe to help them work through what am I missing here, or maybe taking podcast transcripts and saying what can I do with this, these type of things, or even our grammar, our punctuation, our spelling, and all these different things. So to make that shift to having AI help you with illustrations, because I think many people have the desire to write a children's book, but they know they're not artists. And they're like, well, I can't do that because children need pictures. So they're picture books, right? And if I can't make pictures. So would you be willing to share the tool that you use just as a recommendation of one we might want to look at?
It's called Photo Revive AI. And it was one of those where the free versions, I played around with it enough. I played with different versions to see, and this one here just really seemed to do what I asked it to do, basically, and so it was and it does a lot. And I had fun doing different images of my family for us to practice with it. That's how I practice with it. My daughter's dog peed in the house, so I sent an AI image of her dog in a diaper. And she's like, "Did you really put a dog in my diaper?" I'm like, and her fiance's like, "That's AI, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I was having fun." And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you the real reason as to the answer to your question about what inspired me to write the story. My daughter, she was about 3 or 4 years old, and we had our dog Max. He's a Belgian Terran. Imagine a long-haired German Shepherd, basically. Mm. And I said, "Can you let Max outside?" And she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go outside with him." And then we have a fenced-in backyard, so I was like, "All right, go outside and have fun." After 5 minutes, I went back to check on her, and she came running back to me onto the deck with the dog. And she's like, "Boppy, Boppy." I was like, "Oh my God, we got lost. It was so scary. We didn't know if we would get home. We ran into these other animals. They helped us home. Max kept me safe." And I'm like, "You were gone like 5 minutes." In my head, that, but I'm like, "Oh, sweetie, I'm glad you made it home." And as we're walking in, I thought that'd be a good children's book one day. If somebody wrote that, not me, somebody. And so that stuck in my head over the years. And I have a few of those stories that stuck in my head as well of my son. And I always thought these would be great little fun children's book stories. But more importantly, the thing that I think I didn't expect was the fact that, well, two things I didn't expect. One, that these are stories that I would tell my grandkids, maybe my great grandkids, but my kids might not tell these stories. Mm. So this is a way for my stories to live on and be able to be told in a way, even whether I'm there or not. And to me, that was a huge thing to be able to do. And it just, I don't know, for me, it's that along with letting people know, use your imagination, go back in your backyard or wherever you go to the park. And I mean, we grew up using our imagination, Jillian. We had sticks, mud, and a big bush that had like a little tunnel inside. Oh, we could go crazy with that, So put down electronics, go outside, and have a little fun.
I love that. I love that. And most of all, I love that your book is promoting reading to kids, because to me, that's the most important thing that we can do, is give them that gift of loving reading and jumping into the world of a book. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's talk about, in your book, you have something. Well, first of all, your book's available on Amazon.
Yep.
You made it a paperback. So there it is, paperback. Yay, there it is. And it's also available in Kindle. Yep. Now, was that a hard decision to make? Because you don't often see children's books in Kindle, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're seeing more and more. You're a parent. So, give us that decision matrix of like, okay, yeah, I want to do it in Kindle too. And then also, if you could also tell us about the QR code that's inside your book, because that's a little bit interesting too.
So I like to put myself back into my child. I like to remember what it was like to be a child. And I do try to remember those things. And a lot of the memories pop in when you do that. It's a good exercise sometimes. But I also realize that with digital, one of the things that I grew up reading comic books. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading, I love having them in my hand. I always loved turning the pages. But every once in a while, there was like an image, like, God, I wish I could zoom in on it just to see it a little clearer. And that really was one of the driving factors. I said, you know what, I do want this on digital. And there's a second driving factor. I love how we can screen share things from our phone to our TVs.
Hmm.
So when I had my niece's boyfriends here, one of them has a kid, and then we had another young child, and they both read the book, and they both had reading the book like every night to them, and they're like, they love the book, and I go, do you want to see a cartoon I made out of it? And well, before that, I shared the book on the TV screen, and they loved that. And there's one page that scares them, the red eyes, which is intentional. Like this, I'm not gonna ruin the story, but anyways, but I like that you can screen share the book or the video to a big TV, and the kids can see it on a big, huge screen and watch it that way, whether it's flipping pages on the screen or watching the video. So that's why I thought the digital thing was valuable, because I definitely, this was going to be a paperback. There's no question about it. That was not even a question in my mind. But I felt like the digital, it does make it easily accessible to people. And also, it was just, I think with times, it's good to have both. And if I'm really trying to market to my audience, people have both interests. I still buy paper and digital books. I do both. So now the QR code, if you buy the book, there's a QR code in the very back. And that QR code takes you to this YouTube video. And it's only if you have the QR code can you see the video. And you can keep the video after that, obviously. But it is where I again, played with AI. I do a lot of training in AI as an HR person at work. And one of the things I'm like, well, I need to play with it to figure out what AI can do. And so as I started diving into the graphic side of it for work, I realized, well, wait a second. There's a video component here on this app that I mentioned. And I said, maybe I can take these pages and animate them. And so what I did was I took the pages, and do you mind if I play a quick clip of it for you real quick?
It won't really work for the audio podcast, and so that, and it could,
That's fair enough.
and if there's music, it could also,
Yeah.
I can get into copyright issues.
Oh, no. So the music was written, original music for the song by a gentleman named Mike LeBlanc. And it was beautifully written. And that is what I have with the cartoon version. So when you watch the cartoon version, all these pictures in the book here basically become animated, and you see them walking, you see them interacting with the different animals. And it really is something that allows you to just again see the book that you're reading come to life. And so the kids that have seen the cartoon, they are like, play it again, play it again, play it again. I'm like, okay. And one of the things that I always like to share is like, there's one part here, all these animals in here have a story. These are real animals in our book, in our backyard. This one here, we call him Sammy the squirrel. I have a picture in my kitchen, which I'll show you before the end of the show, that actually has a squirrel on the branch in our backyard that for months we'd find him on that branch like, I'm just tired, I'm lazy, I'm tired, and I don't want to do anything. And we're like at first we're like, is he okay? But then you see him jump around with the other squirrels, and then he come back, and that was just his resting spot, and he loved it. But so, and then we have bunnies in our shed, and so I brought those animals into the book.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk about how you've been using LinkedIn, because you're a LinkedIn top voice. You have a huge LinkedIn following. I know so much. You're always doing audio events and different things. So you're all over LinkedIn. So you have basically built yourself an incredible LinkedIn presence. So how did you leverage LinkedIn when you were launching your book? Because that's how I actually came across your unboxing video. And so can you tell us some of the things that you did on LinkedIn, sort of building up to your launch?
Sure. So what I did was I definitely, I didn't talk a lot about it. I wanted to be, I mean, again, what's an HR guy doing writing a children's book? Two of those things don't always go together. So I wanted to wait. And what I did was I talked to my publisher, and she had me lined up on different shows, and she wanted to have a launch party. And I said, okay. And so we planned that. But I realized with the unboxing, we see those on TikTok, we see them on Instagram all the time. And every once in a while we'll see them. I mean, I've seen you do it actually, I think, on LinkedIn before. And I think it's a fun thing. But when you know what's going to happen, it's kind of like, okay, we already know what the product is. But when you don't know what's going to happen, it's kind of fun. And so I wanted to attract people in that sense. I had never done an unboxing video myself. And then along those lines, what I also did was I was able to take the shows I did and use that to promote. Thank you. Use that to promote the book, the launch, and really tap into, like you said, my audience. If they're not a parent, they might be an uncle or an aunt, or they might have best friends that just had a kid. There's always a connection somewhere out there that I don't know what to get this new kid. Give them my book. There you go. You know, so it's something that I think resonates with everyone, regardless of what your profession is on LinkedIn. Children are kind of in our life usually one way or another. You know, it's very rare that you have people that have no connections to kids. Even people who don't want to have kids, and that's okay. They probably have a niece, a nephew, a neighbor that has kids that they see every once in a while that they always talk to. So unless you truly just like kids that much that you just avoid them at all costs, you probably have someone in your life that's a kid. So
I love that. I love that. So what kind of specific posts did you did? So you did the video, which was an unboxing. What other kind of things did you do?
I did a little. I hit all areas. The only thing I didn't do an article about it, but I did a carousel. Okay. I did the posting video. I did the imaging. I did the post. I did a clip of the song with the actual cartoon video. What else did I do? Oh my God, there's so many things I was doing. I had a whole plan of what I did for the first 3 weeks of all the different things I was going to do. And I won't lie, I did copy some of the things to the TikTok and to TikTok and to Instagram just to get a little bit of exposure. But what I realized was the one platform that started it all, that I have all my oldest friends, college friends, school friends, I wasn't promoting it there. Facebook. I'm like, yeah, I don't Facebook that much, but when I have all these people that know me better than some on LinkedIn, why am I not sharing it with them? So I wanted to make sure I reach out to them. But the LinkedIn community was amazing. I was on multiple podcasts of people that were so generous to support my book. And what I love about LinkedIn is when you're streaming like this, that you can stream to other platforms. YouTube has been my backup to LinkedIn. You know, if LinkedIn ever fell away, what would all my work be? You know, and I like it for the video aspect because I don't post on YouTube that much, but on as far as videos, it's a nice place to direct people. Hey, you want to see Maximum Renda videos? Go here. Hey, you want to see all the videos I do for workplace wellness? Go here. There's a playlist. And what I love about YouTube also is I still do some of our shows as audio only because, you know, Clubhouse and LinkedIn Audio Days.
Yep.
So when we do it without video, YouTube automatically categorizes it as a podcast and has its own podcast playlist, which is nice. So I really try to do a little bit of everything for the visual, the written, the audio, the collaboration, the carousels. I use all the features on LinkedIn. I really try to hit every single feature because I think everybody in my audience prefers one feature over the other usually. So
absolutely. That's brilliant.
I gotta show you Sammy, the real Sammy. Here's the real Sammy.
Okay. So for anybody who's listening, he's showing us a picture of this laid back squirrel who just looks like he's on vacation. He's hanging out in a tree. That's great.
Yeah, he basically has his arms hanging off the branch. I mean, he looks like he's just like ready to pass out and exhausted because he's training a marathon or something. So it's fun. And I think that's the other thing is that the colors in the book stand out. I mean, usually LinkedIn, when we're posting about things, you know, we got brand colors, we're being professional. A children's book, the bright colors jump out at you. So it is eye-catching. So when people are scrolling, they're more likely to stop and say, wait, what's that?
Let me ask you a question. So on the mechanics of the book, when you were actually making the book, I'm sure you had to make some decisions. One of the things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head is the dimensions of the book, you know, because like you look at children's, like I'm a parent and, you know, my kids are long gone, they're grown up, but I kept all those children books. And I remember that, you know, they're important to get into the bookcase and, you know, all those different things. So how did size factor in? Because I think you almost had to kind of go in with the end in mind of saying, okay, I want a book to be this size. So therefore I have to create my drawings and the font size and that. So how did you kind of zone in on that?
So again, I'm not a publisher, I'm not an author, so I had no background experience. I could have reached out to a number of people like yourself and be like, okay, teach me. But I won't lie. I went to ChatGPT and I'm saying, what are the normal parameters, sizes, fonts, tips for children's books? And it gave me 3 different sizes. I like the 7x7 square because honestly, that's what I'd already started using on Canva. So it was like, it worked. And it taught me so much of what to do. And there were some formatting small things that they had to tweak a little bit, like the page numbers where I put them. But when I sent it to my publisher, I said, I'm ready to publish this. I was like, well, I need to send it to the formatter and this and that, blah, blah. She came back to me. She's like, okay, you did a pretty good job. I go, oh, really? She's like, we'll have this published in 2 weeks. I'm like, what? It was that fast. So it helped me. I always try to think about the end in mind. What's the final product? Because I have grown up being self-diagnosed as ADHD, and I know myself well enough to know that I'm going to chase that shiny penny. So I didn't want to go off on all these different tangents. I want to stay focused. And so when I thought about what does a children's book look like, I pulled out some old ones that we had. I looked at how they always had the white spaces around them. I wanted to make sure that the back covers and the front covers, what were the things that they included? Do they include about the author? I know regular books do. So there was a lot of research that went into it. And I still learned a lot, even when the formatter came back and said, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that. I'm like, all right, that's good to know for the next time. And now, as I'm doing the next book for my son, it's going to be called Backyard Adventures Presents Brady and Lucky, the One-Eyed Cat. And
I love it.
And so it's AI helped me really prepare and learn what goes into a children's book, because it is different. It's very different, and but yeah, it was fun.
And then, of course, you with the children's book, you have to talk about your color because you're printing in color. And I know my last book I co-authored with Tina Jarvitt, who you know.
Yeah.
And when we did our book, Your Voice Matters, when we did that one, we had to figure out, well, Tina had all these illustrations that her beautiful little sketch notes, they were in color. And we just went, we have to print this in color. But there was different levels of color you could choose. And that was just like, oh, wow, you don't know until you're faced with that decision. And it significantly can change the price, the cost per book of what you're going to do. So which one did that affect you too?
I was concerned about it at first, but then I said, you know what, if there's a place that I'm going to invest a little bit extra, it was that part. And I want that to be the vision of what I had, because there's a lot of things I was willing to give in on, change on, and edit if I needed to. That wasn't one of the areas I was really willing to edit. Not only that, I have little Easter eggs planted throughout the book. So that as people start getting it, they're going to start going, oh, wait, that was from the first book. And I realized it. And there's actually, I will say on the cover, there's this animal that was in our backyard for like 10 years that we have a lot of ground covering on the right side of our yard. And it's about, I'd say, 6 to 12 inches high of ground covering. And for 10 years, this random cute little animal would pop its head up out of the ground covering, and we could never figure out, was that a squirrel? Was that a possum? Wait, was that a groundhog? What the hell was that? So in my book, you got this little little guy that looks like a standing, almost like a platypus, but without the beak, but has pointy black hair, big white eyes. I'm like, that's what it looked like when so it's not a descriptive animal, and it's intentional to be non-descriptive because we still don't know to this day what that animal was, but it was cute. He was funny, and it was like a little like papa mole that would just pop up out, but it wasn't out of the dirt. It was out of the ground covering. So
I love that. I love that. That's so cute. That's so cute. So I'm going to ask you to put your HR, LinkedIn HR hat on.
Got it.
And talk about how, for anybody who's listening, who's maybe an aspiring author and they want to write a book, maybe a business book to, help them market their business services or whatever. or maybe just to show their expertise because maybe they're job hunting. So you don't always have to be a business owner to write a book. A lot of people could be employees and, they want to have this help them with their career. So being that HR person for us, kind of tell us, how do you think writing a book adds to your credibility, adds to your authority, going from author to authority? What does it do for you?
It adds credibility, it adds visibility, it adds value to my brand. Just being able to say that I authored anything, people have this perception, whether it's true or not, that, oh, well, you seem like you're a little more credible now because you authored a book. But more importantly, it inspired me to want to write a business book. Mm. And that's where I've always had this pain point in my job of retirees leaving the company and us losing institutional knowledge, or hear retirees saying they're excited about retirement and then they retire and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. So without sharing my idea, I have this plan of how we could do a win-win scenario for the organization, for the individual, and for the people that are coming in, along with cross-generational training from Gen Z to boomers and vice versa. And so because I allowed myself to dabble in something that I was passionate about, that I felt was a little bit safer to put out a children's book than putting out a professional book, by doing that, it's given me the confidence now to put out that professional book that hopefully will address pain points that HR professionals, CEOs, CFOs are having out there. Because that's the part that I know what I have with 31 years of experience, that this will help and this can make an impact. I didn't have the courage to write it before. Now I have the courage, and I have the outline. I already have the chapters. I have 3 people that are, one's a financial expert, one's a managing director of a retirement firm, another's a CEO, that I'm getting their insights on how they've dealt with it, because I want to make sure this is a valuable book. But I never would have spent this time, again, the children's book and getting those co-authoring. So I guess my message to people is, if you get invited to co-author something, even a chapter, just dip your toe in it, try it out, because you never know. My world has exploded into something I never would have expected. And the fact that kids that I don't know I'm hearing that they love this book. This was a love letter to my daughter. This was not meant necessarily to be like, oh, I want to be the most famous children's book author. I mean, I'm an HR professional. That was my career. This really was a love letter to my daughter and something I was looking forward to do. The fact that it resonated with people has inspired me to continue doing. So I have a 5-book series of this book. But during that time, I'm constantly working on that retirement book for the HR professionals and CEOs out there, because I truly think that that's going to be a huge impact, and that's going to only get more credibility. But people are definitely looking at me, and you know this. I mean, as an author, people look at you as, oh, you have a skill set that I don't have. And I tell people, don't assume you don't have it, because my grammar and spelling have been atrocious for many, many years. So I've relied on proofreaders, ChatGPT, Grammarly, whatever you want to call it. Don't let that stop you. If you have a good idea, there's things out there that can help you.
I love that. I love that. And I love how you've basically said you're not only building your authority for other people to see, but also for yourself.
Yes.
And how it can lead to your own self-confidence. So I love that. So I want to ask you one last thing. You are bilingual.
Yes.
And so would you down the road think about maybe doing this whole series in
Well, it's
Spanish?
funny to say that, because I just submitted the Spanish version of Miranda and Max to my publisher. That is going to be the only thing that's holding her up right now is I need to reset my password so that she can upload it. Otherwise, it's done. So that is going out. My family in Spain, a few of them purchased the English book, and they said, will you write it in Spanish? And I said, only if you proofread it for me in Spanish. And so Spanish, I sent it to them. One of my nieces that grew up with my daughter, who's like close to my daughter's age, was the first one to respond. She's like, I already proofread it, sent you my comments, here you go. And I love that they are now part. So I actually, she's mentioned in the book as translated by Felipe Cofiño and by her, because it's nice to have part of that family. So I feel like my family from Spain is connected to it. So yes, every book will be translated into Spanish. If I was speaking other languages, I would happily translate them, but I don't want to pretend that my French is atrocious. So if I tried French, it would just not work. But the Spanish version will be out for all 5 books, and that's something that I look forward to doing. Especially because I think also if you're teaching kids how to read in Spanish or learn a different language, this is a great entryway to that.
Absolutely. And I think it's awesome to meet people where they are. I remember when I lived in Israel, I found a copy of The Cat in the Hat in Hebrew. And I was trying to learn Hebrew at the time. And I bought that book because I just went, oh my gosh, this will help me because I know the story. It's like it's in my head. I could literally read it so many times to my own kids. So trying to see it in Hebrew was just like, wow. So a lot of times children's books can really be good for adults who want to, freshen up their skills. So there's that as well.
Fascinating is that, when one of my uncles in Spain sent me a picture of him reading it to his grandson, and they had bought the physical book. And I, growing up, I remember in Spain, the children's books just seem bigger. I don't know why. They just seem bigger. They are bigger. Like, I was like, well, how's the format changed over there? But when they bought it, it was, I would say, close to maybe 1.5 to 2 inches bigger all the way around. And it was just, and so seeing them open that big book, I'm like, not only was it nostalgic to see the books that I remember growing up reading, but it was also just an honor for him to read to his grandchild, because he can't read English and speaks English. Your other family members want it in Spanish, but because I can't read it to everybody in English. So
I love that. I love that. Well, we've reached the end of our time together. It always goes so quickly, so quickly. So thank you for being here today, Felipe, and sharing us your adventure. You just stick yourself on the cover because it's your adventure too. So I love it. It's not just your daughter and your dog. It's everybody's adventure. So I love it. I love it.
Well,
so thank you for being here, and everybody else, we will see you all again next week. Okay. Bye, everybody.